Hello everyone, welcome to Prelims Warm Up. This initiative has been brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services, and my name is Shaik Datta. I'm the faculty for Geography and Environment at Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. So let us look at the first question for today. The first question has been taken from UPSC Prelims 2018, and the question asks, which one of the following statements does not apply to the system of subsidiary alliance which was introduced by Lord Wellesley? So which one of the following statements it does not apply to the system of subsidiary alliance which was introduced by Lord Wellesley? First, A is to maintain a large standing army at others' expense. B, to keep India safe from Napoleonic danger. C, to secure a fixed income for the company. And D, to establish British paramountcy over the Indian states. So which out of this does not apply to the system of subsidiary alliance introduced by Lord Wellesley? A, to maintain a large standing army at others' expense. B, to keep India safe from Napoleonic danger. C, to secure a fixed income for the company. And D, to establish British paramountcy over the Indian states. So answer is C. That is, this was not one of the important, you can say one of the important objectives of the subsidiary alliance, that is to secure a fixed income for the company. That was not the objective. So let us see the company, it forced the states into a subsidiary alliance. According to the terms of this alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. Okay? According to the terms of this alliance, Indian rulers, they were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They were to be protected by the company but had to pay for the subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. So first thing is that according to the subsidiary alliance, we get to see Indian rulers, they were not allowed to have their independent armed forces and they were supposed to be protected by the company. But they had to pay for the subsidiary force that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. If the Indian rulers, they fail to make the payment, then part of their territory would be taken away as penalty. During this phase, from 1813 to 1857, the British made almost all the Indian states subordinate to their power by compelling them to enter into subsidiary alliances with them. The Indian princes were put under obligation to accept the British paramountcy. Napoleonic invasion of Egypt in the summer of 1798 offered Wellesley a useful tool to soften London's resistance to expansion. Although he never believed for a moment that there was any danger of a French invasion of British India, either over land from Egypt or a naval attack around the Cape of Good Hope. However, to assuage London's concerns, he evolved the policy of subsidiary alliance, which would only establish control over the internal affairs of an Indian state without incurring any direct imperial liability. There was no component of fixed income in this particular system. So the company, it forced the states into a subsidiary alliance. Indian rulers, they could not keep any independent armed forces of their own, but their protection was guaranteed by the company. But this protection came at a cost, so they had to pay to maintain the troops who were supposed to protect them in case of any emergency. And in case if the Indian rulers fail to make such a payment, then a part of the territory would be taken away as penalty. So this entire phase, it lasted from 1813 all the way up to 1857, and eventually we get to see almost all the Indian states, they became subordinate to the British. They came under subsidiary alliance of the Britishers. And we also get to see that the Indian princes, they were put under obligation to accept the British paramountcy. And we get to see Napoleonic invasion of Egypt in the summer of 1798. It offered Wellesley a useful tool to soften London's resistance to expansion. So London after 1857 did not want to expand or annex other territories, but what happened was Napoleon invaded Egypt in the summer of 1798, and we get to see that it offered Wellesley a useful tool to soften London's resistance to expansion, although he never believed for a moment that there was any danger of a French invasion of British India, either over land from Egypt or a naval attack around the Cape of Good Hope. So it was just an excuse that Napoleon might attack India, which he used in order to carry out the subsidiary alliance. However, to assuage London's concerns, he evolved the policy of subsidiary alliance, which would only establish control over the internal affairs of an Indian state without incurring any direct imperial liability. There was no component of fixed income under this entire system of subsidiary alliance. So that is something that you should be knowing. So if you look at subsidiary alliance to maintain a large standing army at others' expense, of course, that is one of the objectives. Second is to keep India safe from Napoleonic danger. This is something which they did not believe in, but still that was one of the reasons given behind establishment of the subsidiary alliance by Lord Wellesley. The third thing is to establish British paramountcy over the Indian state. That was definitely one of the objectives. But to secure a fixed income for the company, that was definitely not one of the objectives. Moving on, the next question that we have is also from UPSC Prelims 2018. And the question asks, which of the following led to the introduction of English education in India? Okay. Which one of the following, or which of the following it led to the introduction of English education in India? Number one, Charter Act of 1813. Number two, General Committee of Public Instruction 1823. Number three, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. So, which one of the following led to the introduction of English education in India? One, Charter Act of 1813. Two, General Committee of Public Instruction 1823. And three, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. So, what ultimately led to the introduction of English education in India? So, if you see D 1, 2, and 3, that is the correct answer. That is Charter Act of 1813. That's also the General Committee of Public Instruction 1823. Apart from that, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy that also contributed to the introduction of English education in India. So what happened? The Charter Act of 1813. The act incorporated the principle of encouraging learned Indians or learned Indians and promoting knowledge of modern sciences in the country. The act directed the company to sanction 1 lakh rupees annually for this purpose. So as per the Charter Act of 1813, we get to see 1 lakh rupees was sanctioned for or to encourage learned Indians and to promote the knowledge of modern sciences in the country. However, even this petty amount was not made available all the way up to 1823, mainly because the controversy raged on the question of the direction that this expenditure should take. So only 1 lakh rupees was allotted for the education of Indians, but even that money, that small amount of money, that was also not made available because there was a lot of controversy as to how this particular fund would be utilized. In 1823, the Governor General in Council appointed a General Committee of Public Instruction, which had the responsibility to grant the 1 lakh rupees for education. The committee consisted of 10 European members belonging to two groups. Okay, so General Committee of Public Instruction that was set up in 1823, it consisted of 10 Europeans who were divided into two groups. One group is the Anglicists, the other is Orientalist, and hence we get to see it promoted both Indian and English education. Next, coming to this Orientalist and Anglicist controversy, what is it all about? So with the General Committee on Public Instruction, the Anglicists argued that the government spending on education should be exclusively for modern studies. The Orientalists said that while Western sciences and literature should be taught to prepare students to take up jobs, emphasis should be placed on expansion of traditional Indian learning as well. Even the Anglicists were divided over the question of the medium of instruction. One faction was for English education as the medium, while the other faction was for Indian language. This is the Anglicists we get to see. One faction of the Anglicists, they wanted the education to be in English language, while the other one wanted the entire education to be in Indian languages or in vernacular languages. Lord Macaulay's Minute of 1835. Lord Macaulay's Minute of 1835. So this famous minute, it settled the row in favor of the Anglicists, and the limited government resources were to be devoted to the teaching of Western sciences and literature through the medium of English language alone. And that was decided as a part of the Lord Macaulay's Minute of 1835, which said that which ultimately settled the row between the Anglicists and the Orientalists, and they supported the Anglicists. And they said that whatever limited government resources are there, those would be used to teach Western sciences and literature, but the medium should be English language alone. Okay. So all the three, Charter Act of 1813, because that allotted 10 lakh rupees, General Committee of Public Instruction. So there we get to see there are 10 members, some of whom supported the medium of vernacular language, but then there was another faction which supported the use of English language for education. Ultimately, it is the Anglicists who won as a result of the Lord Macaulay's Minute of 1835. And of course, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy that was also playing a part in the introduction of English education in India. So all the three are correct. Moving on to the third question, which one of the following is an artificial lake, asked in 2018 prelims? Which one of the following is an artificial lake? A. Kodaikanal in Tamil Nadu, B. Koleru in Andhra Pradesh, C. Nainital in Uttarakhand, and D. Renuka in Himachal Pradesh. Question is, which out of these is an artificial lake? A. Kodaikanal in Tamil Nadu, B. Koleru in Andhra Pradesh, C. Nainital in Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and D. Renuka in Himachal Pradesh. So let us see the answer. 3A. 3A is the right answer, that is Kodaikanal in Tamil Nadu. So if we look at Kodaikanal, we find that out of the given options, Kodaikanal is an artificial lake. So let us see the answer, the explanation. So Kodaikanal Lake, which is also called as Kodai Lake, it is a man-made lake. It is located in the Kodaikanal city, which is in the Dindigul district in Tamil Nadu, India. Sir Weir Henry Levinge, the then collector of Madurai, was instrumental in creating the lake in 1863 amidst the Kodaikanal town, which was developed by the British and early missionaries from USA. Okay. So Kodaikanal Lake, it is also called as the Kodai Lake. It is a man-made lake which is located in the Kodaikanal city in Dindigul district in Tamil Nadu, India, and we get to see it was Sir Levinge, who was the collector of Madurai. He was instrumental in creating the lake in 1863 amidst the Kodaikanal town, which was developed by the British and early missionaries from USA. Moving on to the fourth question. In 1920, and this question was also asked in UPSC Prelims 2018, question is, in 1920, which of the following changed its name to Swarajya Sabha? In 1920, which one of the following changed its name to Swarajya Sabha? A. All India Home Rule League, B. Hindu Mahasabha, C. South Indian Liberal Federation, and D. The Servants of India Society. So which one of the following changed its name to Swarajya Sabha in 1920? A. All India Home Rule League, B. Hindu Mahasabha, C. South Indian Liberal Federation, and D. The Servants of India Society. So let us see. Or A is the right answer, that is the Home Rule League, All India Home Rule League, that it changed its name to Swarajya Sabha in 1920. So what is this? Gandhi had become the president of the All India Home Rule League in 1920, and during that time we get to see the name was changed to Swarajya Sabha, Swaraj Sabha. Finally, let us move on to question number 5, and this was asked in UPSC Prelims 2018. Which among the following events happened earliest? Out of the following, which happened earliest? A. Swami Dayanand established Arya Samaj. B. Dinabandhu Mitra wrote Nil Darpan. C. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee wrote Anandamath. And D. Satyendra Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in the Indian Civil Services examination. So out of the following, you have to arrange them in a sequential manner and find out which happened at the first, or which happened earliest. A. Swami Dayanand established Arya Samaj. B. Dinabandhu Mitra wrote Nil Darpan. C. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee or Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote Anandamath. And D. Satyendra Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in the Indian Civil Services examination. And answer is B. That is Dinabandhu Mitra wrote Nil Darpan. We'll try to understand. Swami Dayanand established Arya Samaj when? In 1875. Okay. Swami Dayanand established Arya Samaj in 1875. Dinabandhu Mitra wrote Nil Darpan in 1858-59. So Arya Samaj was established in 1875. Dinabandhu Mitra, he wrote Nil Darpan in 1858-59. During that time, Bankim Chandra Chatterjee wrote Anandamath in 1882, and we get to see Satyendra Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in the Indian Civil Services examination in 1863. So Swami Dayanand established Arya Samaj when? In 1875. We get to see that Dinabandhu Mitra wrote Neel Darpan around 1858-59. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote Anandamath in 1882. And finally, we get to see Satyanarayana Tagore became the first Indian to succeed in the Indian Civil Services examination in 1863. Okay. So out of these, you can understand that Dinabandhu Mitra wrote the Neel Darpan that happened at the earliest. So with this, we come to the end of the 5 questions for today's session. I hope you have liked the video. Please let us know in the comment section. Also, please share this video with your friends who are preparing for UPSC. Also, please like and subscribe to Aptitude Academy for Civil Services YouTube channel for more such informative videos. We'll be back again with a set of new questions in the next episode. Till then, please stay safe and take care. Thank you so much.